this is Sarah from Fan the Flame Fitness, and today we are going to be talking about your hip flexors. There's a whole bunch of muscles that make up that complex, and when those muscles get extremely tight, overworked, they start to pull us out of alignment. We're going to look at that today, and we're also going to look at a couple stretches you can do throughout the day to help pull yourself back in alignment. Because those muscles do some amazing things, and when they get too tight, they really pull us out. It's kind of like life. If you look at all the areas that we're involved in, from work to family to friends to hobbies to giving back, there's a lot of things within that circle. And if one tends to take more of our energy and we put more tension there, kind of like those hip flexors, putting more work into them without letting them stretch out or balance out, it pulls us out of alignment. First with Christ, and then with those around us. It starts to pull us out of alignment. And all of those things are good things. But when they get placed in front of Christ first, and then our friends, family, relationships, it starts to pull us out of alignment. So just like our normal life, these hip flexors, when they get too tight, they pull us out and they start affecting so many things. So first we're going to look at what it does, and then we're going to show you a quick stretch that you can do throughout the day to pull that back into alignment, put it in place. All right, so here we go. Let's take a look. So first of all, your hip flexors, you've got your psoas, which kind of runs in and through, back through the hip. Then you also have your TFL, your tens fascia latae. That's a fun one to say. It goes up this way, and you got your rectus femoris. And there's a few others, but right now that's what we're going to look at. So when these get tight, because your hip flexors, what they do, they enable you to bend and lift this up, bend down. Right here, you've got that. So when you're squatting and lifting or sitting at a desk all day, these muscle complex is tight all the time. It's firing. It's not actually being released. And so over time, this is what happens. Tell me if you know anybody that looks like this. Don't point it out to them. Or maybe it's yourself. But when these get tight, they stay in this position all the time, hunched over, which causes tension right here on that lower back because you're trying to bring yourself up with this tightness, as well as our glutes, their largest muscle back here, to be able to move you through things, gets turned off. We can't actually flex it or use it. So to balance us, because these are tight, our back does work, and our hamstrings get overused because we're trying to balance ourselves between the tension here and the tension here. Does that make sense? I'm sure that you guys either feel that, either the tension in the back of your legs, those hamstrings, or that lower back just tends to kill you. Well, here we go. Let's look at our hip flexors, and one thing that we can do to release them, to release some tension on our back and our hamstrings. Now, this is only one thing, because once you start stretching your hip flexors out, you also need to strengthen the other side. That stretching and strengthening balances. But today we're looking at stretching. So what's one thing that we can do? So what I would suggest is in the morning, around the middle of the day, and after work, to do these things, this one stretch. And the reason being, because if you are like this, you need to do it more than once to be able to get it to release. Does that make sense? And there's many different things that we can do, but this is the first step. So we're going to make it easy on you. We're going to go down on the ground. And if this is hard for you with your knees, you can put a mat underneath there. You can put a pillow underneath there. That is not a big deal, okay? So we're going to put ourselves in this position. You've got a 90-degree angle with your knee and a 90-degree angle over here. So from this position, we're going to stretch out our hip flexors. And most people, you will see them do this. And what happens, I don't know if you notice it, but my back is starting to arch. Now I do feel it, but I'm not stretching the muscles that I need to help alleviate that pain. Because when I'm in this position, one of those muscles called the psoas attaches back here. And when I push too far forward, I'm actually contracting it and not letting it release. So unless you know exactly what you're doing, you could actually be doing more harm than good. So what we're going to do is we're going to be in this position with your legs both at 90 degrees. And from here, you're thinking of your core tight, like somebody just punched you. So tight and tense, but you can still breathe. So tight and tense, and taking your hips and just tucking them under a little bit. And when you do that, you're going to be squeezing your glutes, and you will feel a pull right through the middle here. Now, if you don't feel that, there's a few other things that we can do to modify this. But this would be the first one, because if you need more of a push, that's great, but you have got to watch that back. So if you're not feeling it, thinking of that tucking, that core tight, you can lean forward a little bit as long as you keep yourself in alignment, because we don't want to contract that muscle that we're trying to release. So once you find your place and you feel that tension right there, you're going to hold it for about 30 seconds, keeping everything in line. And I know it's a long 30 seconds, but if you're doing that 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening, you're going to see a huge difference over the course of just a week or a couple of days. You will notice. So after 30 seconds, I would switch and I would go to the other leg and give it a break. Let this relax and stretching that other leg and holding that for 30 seconds. The same thing, your core in tight, your hips tilted forward just a little bit, your glutes tightening, and you're holding it for 30 seconds. And I don't have my timer on me right now, so we're just going to talk about it for a second. So going on one and then stretching the other one and then coming back. I would suggest doing that 3 times on that morning, noon, and night. So in reality, 1, 2, that's 3 minutes of your day in the morning, 3 minutes of your day at noon, and 3 minutes of your day in the evening. I know that you could do this while you're checking your email. If you're using it on your phone, you could do this while you're watching TV. You could do this while you're checking your social media. Come on, we have time. It's just putting it into practice while we're doing it. So here's a couple of steps and modifications that you can do if you need a little bit more to stretch it. One is keeping yourself in this position we just talked about and adding that arm raise. And you can lean over just a little bit towards the leg that's up, and you will feel that pull a little bit more. I do today because I did some interval running and those hip flexors had to pull my legs up really fast. So I feel it pretty good. The other thing that you can do is take your foot and put your toes down, and you will feel that pulling maybe a little bit more in the rectus femoris. And if you need a little bit more, you can always put your foot up on something, taking it up on a chair to actually stretch that a little bit more. The last one you can do is taking this leg, maybe I'll turn sideways so you can see, and actually taking your foot and moving it to the inside a little bit more. Let's go this way so you can see. You're going to take it and move it this way. And that's going to open up the inside a little bit more as far as a different muscle to stretching. So you can bring your foot over this way, and you can also add that arm in the same direction. But with all of this in mind, you're still keeping your hips in that alignment. So on morning, noon, and night, I would suggest 30 seconds, 3 times each. So 30 seconds on the right, 30 seconds on the left, 3 times in the morning, in the lunchtime, and then in the evening to release those, to take the pressure off your back, your hamstrings, and you'll also feel it radiate up and down your body, meaning that when your back is hurting, it affects your shoulders, your neck, all the way up. When your hamstrings are tight, it'll affect all the way down to your feet and feet issues that we have, as well as the hips. There is so much. So that's the first thing I would do right there, is spending those 3 times a day, 30 seconds times 3. All right, well, have a great one, and we'll see you next time.